Hello, my name is Marcus Neubacher, and this is the Charleston, Roanoke, and Eastern Railway. It's an N-scale layout based on Norfolk Southern and CSX operating in Virginia and West Virginia in the late 80s and early 1990s. I'd like to welcome you here today. This is version 2 of the CR&E, and its construction began in 2008. It occupies 2 rooms of a basement, an 11 by 22 foot room, and a 15.5 by 19 room. Connected through a half bath and laundry area. The layout was built for operations. We operate several times a year with a regular crew of 8 to 10 people. Some of those people have been operating with me for about 15 years on this and a previous version of the layout. During an operating session, we run merchandise trains, coal trains, locals, pusher operations. We have yard masters and dispatchers that move the traffic over the road. Traffic on the railroad is controlled a combination of track warrant control and CTC. The track warrant control is done by radio, and the CTC is done using a program called CATS that was written by Rodney Black. It's a very good program for doing CTC operation on a model railroad. The railroad is prototype freelanced, meaning that the railroad itself is not an actual rail route, but it's based on reality. The towns on the railroad are actual locations on the map. The railroad begins in Charleston, West Virginia, at a connection with the Conrail's West Virginia Secondary, runs to Roanoke, Virginia, in a connection with the N&W, and then finally ends up in Danville, Virginia, in a connection with the Southern Railway. The modeled portion of the railroad begins near Lewisburg, West Virginia, which is near the Virginia and West Virginia state line. We have a classification yard there. We go up and over the Allegheny Mountains and down into Roanoke, Virginia. That's the eastern portion that's represented by a staging yard. We have some coal branch territory west of Lewisburg, and the rest of it is single-track mountain railroading with passing sidings. We begin the nickel tour of the railroad here at Charleston, West Virginia. This is the staging yard for the west end of the railroad and represents Charleston and other points to the west of our model territory. We come up next to K&N Junction. This is at Meadow Bluff, West Virginia, where the Kessler and Northern District meets the main line. The Kessler and Northern District is a coal branch, a series of coal branches actually, that bring coal from the coal fields out to the main line, and then the coal can run either east or west to destinations at tidewater or lake ports or power plants throughout the country. We're coming in here to Lewisburg, West Virginia. This is a classification yard and what we would consider the division point on the railroad. It's about halfway in between Charleston and Danville, Virginia. The yard here handles a good bit of traffic coming in for the locals. The yard master would dispatch locals from this location to work the various industries along the route. We also have double track that allows trains to meet and pass here, and a number of industries to work in town. We're now at Caldwell, West Virginia. This is a rock quarry location, and we also have a bagged cement distributor. All of these industries are switched by a local that works in this area on what is the lower level of the layout.
That's good. That's good.
This is Glace, West Virginia. It's the bottom of the hill for the climb over our loops. The loops are used to gain elevation between Glace and Paint Bank, Virginia. There's a passing siding, a cement distributor, and a wood chip loader here. We do tie pushers onto the bulk commodity trains that are running eastbound here. Coal trains and grain trains will get a pusher up over the hill to keep them moving, and the grade is such that the coal trains and grain trains do actually need a push from the rear end in order to keep moving. The trains are heavy enough that the grade will slow them down and actually stall them if we don't use the pushers. Coming around through the loops here, this is coming up through Glace. We pass through Anderson and up to Ridge. There's a passing siding up here on the mountain called between Ridge and Coleman. The passing siding is used by dispatchers to meet trains on the mountain. It's a little bit shorter than the other sidings on the railroad, so there's some strategy involved in terms of meeting trains in this area. Coming up here near the top of the grade at Koester, Virginia, we have a small pulpwood dealer here. Local stops and works this on the way up the mountain. Coming into Paint Bank, Virginia, this is a pretty busy place on the railroad. It's designed for handling coal tonnage. There's a number of mine runs that come up from the yard at Meadow Bluff down below, west of Lewisburg. They come up and set off the tonnage here, and then eastbound coal trains will take and pick up that coal to move it east to Roanoke. Storage yard here is used mainly for coal, but also allows overflow cars to be brought in for the brickyard, the house track, and a couple of the branch lines that come out here.
That's good.
The railroad summit is just east of here in a curve.
Someone move.
We get ready to pass through Smith Tunnel. The summit is just beyond Smith Tunnel, just east of it, where the climbing grade stops for an eastbound train and the descending grade begins. We'll then cross over the Johns Creek Trestle here after passing through Johns Creek Tunnel number 1, and then after going across the trestle, go through Johns Creek Tunnel number 2. At this point, we pass through an area called Tub Run, where we end up at Shenandoah Junction, Virginia, on the other side. Shenandoah Junction is a connection with a CSX line that runs north and south through here. We do run some CSX run-through coal trains that come off of the Nicholas, Fayette, and Greenbrier, which connects with the K&N district west of Meadow Bluff. Those coal trains move eastward over the CR&E up here to Shenandoah Junction, and then they diverge and head south toward points in the southeast for power plant use. At Newcastle, we have a passing siding, an Appalachian electric power plant, a textile mill, and an oil and propane dealer. There's a local that's based here that works both west to Shenandoah Junction and east to Abbott and Catawba, Virginia. That local takes quite a bit of time to run during an operating session and is one of the more favorite jobs of the operating crew. At Abbott, it's basically a wide spot in the road. We have a rock quarry here. This rock quarry ships ballast for the railroad, and it can be fairly busy. At Catawba, Virginia, we have a passing siding, a feed mill, and a short branch to the state hospital. The state hospital receives coal, and again, the passing siding here is quite a bit shorter. It's actually the shortest on this district, so dispatchers have to be real careful about meeting trains in this location. And finally, we roll through N&W Junction. N&W Junction is a connection, obviously, with the Norfolk and Western. It's just west of Roanoke, and we'll join the N&W's double-track main line here and run eastward into the yard at Roanoke, Virginia, which is represented by a staging yard. Yeah. Now that we're finished with the mainline tour, we'll go back west of Lewisburg to Meadow Bluff, West Virginia, where we have the connection with the Kessler and Northern Branch Line territory. The K&N diverges here at K&N Junction, or K&N Tower, and runs northward toward Fenwick, West Virginia, where we connect with the former B&O and also Allen McClelland's Virginian and Ohio, which was an influential model railroad for me. Bluff, there's a Georgia Pacific facility that's still being developed here. We'll have wood chips and pulpwood shipping to and from here. We then pass the mainstay of this coal branch territory. One of the first loadouts we'll see here is at Crawley, West Virginia, where we load about 10 to 12 cars during an operating session. We pass through Raiders Junction here. This is the crossing with the CSX, Nicholas, Fayette, and Greenbrier Railroad. The Raiders Run industrial track runs across us at grade here. And our connection track will allow us to pull coal off the NF&G and move it east on the CR&E, and then eventually south on the CSX from Shenandoah Junction. We're now at Kessler, West Virginia. This is the largest community on the K&N district. This would have at one time been the southernmost point on the Kessler and Northern Railroad, and once it was bought by the CR&E and folded into the Norfolk Southern CR&E division, the line was extended from Kessler down to the CR&E main line at Meadow Bluff. So Kessler at one time was a coal terminal, a little bit of a coal terminal. The branch line diverging off here goes to Clear Fork Mine. It's a Y connection so that we can run trains in either direction, north or south, and also turn trains here if we need to. We have a ammonium nitrate dealer, Austin Powder, that is based here. We have a relatively good-sized older coal operation called Kessler Big Mountain. It's on its last days, it looks like, but it's still shipping a good 10 to 12 cars during a typical day.
Accident.
We're now at Sam Creek Junction. This is where the Sam Creek branch runs off to a coal preparation plant. The coal prep plant handles inbound coal loads from raw coal loaders out on the branch. Those loaders are worked by a mine shifter that bring the raw coal into the prep plant, and then we ship unit trains of cleaned or prepped coal out of here. So we'll have a number of trains that come and go here at Sam Creek Junction. They run either to the prep plant, or if they continue on north on the K&N, they continue into what's now basically just a staging area that represents the north end of the K&N toward Fenwick, West Virginia. Another fun part of the CR&E is our pusher operations. We push the bulk commodity trains, that being coal trains and grain trains, up over the hill from Glace to Paint Bank, Virginia, and sometimes further east depending on the tonnage. It's interesting to watch the pusher and the head end crews work together, and it does take a lot of concentration to move trains up the mountain without derailing cars en route. We have a train arriving here at Glace that's going to get pushers, so here we see the head end pulling up to a stop at the east end of Glace, which is called Cove Mountain. After getting permission from the dispatcher, the pusher crew will pull out into the siding and couple up to the rear of the coal train that they're going to be pushing. Here we see the pusher set coupling up to the rear of the coal train, and they'll get permission once they get their earth charged up to start up the mountain. And here we see the train starting through the loops. It's kind of a concentrated effort between the head end crew and the pusher crew. We do use a crew for both sides. They have to work together to make sure they're not pushing the train too hard or not enough, so that they both keep the train moving and also keep it from derailing. It's more keeping the slack out of the train than it is really pushing hard on the back of the cars. And there's constant throttle adjustments needed. You'll see as the train's making its way through the loops here, through the curves. Just like on the prototype, there's times when the pusher crew will have to apply more throttle or less throttle, depending on the track profile ahead. At this point, as we come into Paint Bank, the pushers aren't really needed as much. The grade's lessened up, but we'll pull the train east in between the switches at Paint Bank so that they can get permission from the dispatcher to proceed back westward toward Lewisburg. And their work is now done, so here's the pusher set returning westbound back down the mountain. Dispatching on the CR&E is handled by a computer program called the Crandic Automated Traffic System, written by Rodney Black. It interfaces with JMRI, and it allows the dispatchers to line routes for the trains using CTC signal indications. The trains can be lined out of the siding, for example, here at Ridge and down the main line, and the software would actually tie into the layout, and we can throw the switches and set the signals during an operating session. We also use FRS radios so that we can communicate with the train crews. Some of the railroad is not yet set up with CTC, so we use the radios to give verbal track authority or track warrants to the train crews.
NS 909 calling the East End dispatcher.
NS East End dispatcher, over.
Yeah, this coal train is by us. We're ready to go west at Ridge.
All right, 909, signal indication at Ridge, over.
NS 909, clear out the siding at Ridge. That concludes our video tour of Marcus Neubacher's Charleston, Roanoke, and Eastern Railway N-Scale, Norfolk Southern, and CSX model train layout. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've kind of been wanting to do a layout tour video for a while now, and I kind of like to make it a video program that come out every 2 months on my channel, layout tours. I don't know. I mean, if you guys like that idea, hit subscribe, like, comment below, and tell me what you think. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed spending the day at Marcus's house and learning about his layout and the history of it, and kind of more in-depth tour of it. So later, guys, and Happy New Year, and many more videos to come. Later, guys.